Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. Go to PeachWeb.io right now. Seriously, there's a fish floating down your screen. That's how you know you're not in Web 2 anymore. Lucas Poelman, once a pro tennis player, now co-founder of PeachWeb, is behind the platform turning 3D website design into something you can build in minutes with zero code. Think Lego meets Unreal Engine for the 3D web. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Lucas Poelman, co-founder of PeachWeb. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Rocco. Really enjoyed that introduction.
So,
I can.
Pro tennis player, your mom being Brazilian and your dad being Dutch, doesn't that's like a match made in heaven for any sports athletic type of person. So how pro were we? What were we talking about here?
Well, funny enough, I was GB tennis, so I didn't play for Brazil. I didn't play for Holland. My parents, they met in England and they stayed, so I was raised English. And yeah, I started playing when I was 11, 12, and it becomes very serious very early.
Yeah.
Tennis players have to get serious from like 11, 12, and then GB is very well funded from Wimbledon, so they start taking you on trips around the world. You compete for England. You're basically on like a circuit, a tour from like, well, for me personally, it was from like 11 to like 17, just traveling the world.
That's a long time, mate. And especially at a very young age, I suppose it gave you a great perspective on the world that sort of other kids that age don't necessarily have, because they grow up in the community, they stay in their town, and they maybe even like in university, they go out and explore or go abroad and take a trip. Did you pick up any things from your travels as a kid? Sort of, how did that shape you?
Well, the traveling part wasn't that interesting because you would get on a plane, get in a taxi, go straight to the hotel, and then straight to the tennis club. But what you did learn was just competing against different nationalities and different cultures. So you could always tell what country someone was from. So I know the South Americans it'd always be good if you had a referee.
Why? Why?
Because sometimes they called it out when it was in.
Oh. I feel you.
And if there was like a Serbian kid, you're gonna have a long day. The Asians were very focused, very like introverted, very respectful. So you got to learn like how different nationalities kind of competed against each other.
That's very cool. And I suspect discipline was always also a big factor there.
Yeah, discipline, and you just learn how to lose, right? You learn how to win, you learn how to lose. Like you go play 30 tournaments a year, you probably win a couple of them, right? Andy Murray won 3 Grand Slams, and he had an unbelievable career. So that means he lost 90% of the times in Grand Slams. So like you just learn to lose, you enjoy the winning, and I guess you just learn to compete.
There's this thing that I read the other day. It says that you only get better through losing, really, because when you come to being a champion and you just play people that you think you can win, you're not really improving. You're just guarding yourself. It's just being defensive the whole time.
Yeah, that's very true. I think, and you learn just to bounce back as well.
Yeah.
You don't take the losses too heavy. You just have a moment and then just get back and start playing next week. So I think you just learn to lose, really, and that's important, because that's what I've realized happens a lot more often in adult life as well, right?
Especially in startups, which is a brilliant segue, not planned at all, but startups fail a lot, and it's about failing fast, and it's about iterating and listening to your community. So let's get stuck into PeachWeb a bit now that we know a bit about you. How did you get into AI? How did that sort of, and the tech space, how did that come about?
So after my tennis career, I went to university, found that very flat as an
Mm,
experience.
mm,
Met my co-founder in a bar in
cool.
in Brazil, actually. And we had the same idea for an app. And apps at the time, I was 20, I'm 30 now, so this was 10 years ago. And apps
Wow.
were
Okay,
were
2015.
kind of very
Okay.
apps were very sexy. Like that was probably what AI was today, just the thing to do.
Everything
And
was an app. I remember.
yeah,
Everything was an
yeah,
app. Like they turned
exactly.
everything into an app. Okay, I remember. I'm
Yeah,
with you.
yeah. So we started, um, launching our own apps, and we started working with some big retailers, and he's from Slovenia, so I moved
Ah.
to Slovenia. We started getting like Slovenian developers out of college, and we start making apps. And then
What did you make?
my
Sorry, what did you make?
I made a virtual fitting app. So it was in like 3D, so
Ah.
you can kind of visualize the clothes on you with the right measurements, but the visualization technology wasn't there yet. So whenever I look at it now, I kind of laugh because it's
You
so
were
bad.
ahead of the curve, right? The
Yeah,
technology didn't catch up to what you had in your brain. But it's interesting now that you already had this sort of 3D aspect in
yeah,
mind, because one of the things when I started checking out your website and the templates and what other people are building or have started to build, I found myself sort of, I'm like, why hasn't anyone done this before? And that was the one thing. And the other thing is because, I mean, I'm on social media all the time, on the internet all the time, and it's very unique, right? So the little fish that
yeah,
does like this and this. And I found myself spending more time on that website because websites are boring by definition.
yeah,
It's static. It's like
yeah.
you click on something and then okay, whatever. And this to me, don't take offense, but I found it in like a cool MySpace kind of way. You know how MySpace was for social media.
Mhm.
It's like, ooh, this is cool, this is new, this is
Yeah,
interesting, and that's was my experience with
nice.
PeachWeb. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think just to touch upon your comment was, why don't you see more of this?
yeah.
And it's so in 2000, so we were always in apps and web design, and we always like to push sort of the boundaries of everything. And in 2021, WebGL technology got supported on all browsers, and WebGL basically allows you to render like really awesome 3D graphics on the web, and it loads, right? You can load it
Mm,
on your mobile now. So that was all
yeah.
possible in 2021, and we just went all in on that because we knew that this was the future of websites. You could do so much more, and and bring brands to life, bring concepts and stories to life, allow people to interact with it, immerse into it, and it's just very captivating. And we started working with like all the bigger brands at this time because they were amazed at what they could kind of create on the web. But the reason why you don't see that much of it is because WebGL is a very difficult technology, and you need WebGL developers. These are very creative developers, and it
Okay.
used to take 3 to 6 months to code a website, and it used to cost like 100,000 to make, which is just ridiculous for a website, right? Like, as I know, the big boys can spend that because they want to be the best and they want to look the best.
Mm,
But you speak to everyday startups or brands,
yeah.
they got to
No
spend money
ways.
elsewhere,
There's
right? No
no
way, right?
ways. No ways.
Exactly. And then, but we were so in love with this category, and we just loved what we did. So, and we were all experts in WebGL at that point, and we were like, let's make this as fast as a normal website.
Mm,
Let instead of using a whole development team, let's just use one designer. Let's make a builder where only one designer can create these 3D websites in a couple of weeks, few weeks. Just like how a Wix designer creates a website in Wix. We want a Peach designer to create these awesome, WebGL 3D websites on Peach. And now our mission is to make it commercial, like to make it put it on the map. I want people to
Mm.
see more of these websites because people love them.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Do you need to have any coding experience to do that, or how does that work?
So it's mainly no, it's a no code 3D
Okay.
website builder. So you can there's three ways they use the builder. So you drag and
Okay.
drop your 3D and then you
Mm.
animate it and you add the web designer, which is just like a standard HTML builder. So we
Okay.
basically combined, like, let's say an Unreal Engine inside a website builder,
Yes.
and you're kind of dragging and dropping, and yeah, it'll take a designer, a couple of weeks
Okay.
max to.
And if I get stuck, is there help available?
Yeah, we have a Discord, which you can access on the builder. We have, a growing community. We have around 8,000 designers and agencies on the builder. So they're all on Discord, chatting away, helping each other.
Oh, that's
I think
cool.
they're just really excited about what they can create. I remember the first day I launched, this guy came up to me and said, I've always wanted to create this builder, and I'm so happy that you've done it. And he basically now has a 3D website agency dedicated to Peach. So I
Oh,
think
that's
people
so
are just
cool.
so designers was, have been designing in the box for so long, creating the same stuff as everyone else. Now that they can create these wonderful things and really flex, they're
Yeah.
they're super excited about the future of web design.
What do you think? Oh, sorry. How important is creative joy in sort of in what you're building?
A lot. That's why we do it. That's why I made the venture.
Mm.
I think it's about just expressing yourself, and then also it's really nice when I have a meeting with a startup now, and they have this idea, this concept, this story, and now you can use the 3D to sort of bring that to life, and I think I get a lot of joy in that as well. You're It's very creative, and they love the result as well because they feel like their brand is larger than life now.
Yeah.
So it's an extremely rewarding process. WebGL is extremely rewarding, but just notoriously difficult. And now we're making it really easy.
How difficult would it be to convert my standard, let's call it web to desktop website to a 3D website? Or do you have to start from scratch?
So we have this new process. We're calling it Peach Sites.
Hmm.
If it's a landing page, it starts at $5,000.
Okay.
And what we do is that you can basically pick a style. We have a library of models and styles. So let's say it's a fish, or let's say it's a blockchain cube, or
Mm.
a really cool like particle effect, which represents sort of AI or data.
Yeah.
You may select one of those because you think that's my brand, or like that's just looks amazing. And then you select one of our layouts, which is basically the user journey. So the website goes from this to there, and then the 3D model goes from there to there to there. It has these 3D moments. We then customize, then we just basically add all the text, and then you're done. We can deliver it within a week. So we can kind of look at your website and be like, okay, we suggest these styles, we suggest a similar layout to what you already have, and one of our Peach experts can do that in
Mm.
a week. That's kind of the process.
Yeah, that's cool
And
because I suspect there's going to be a lot of conversions coming soon.
yeah, and that's what we kind of want to do with AI as well. So the reason why we're doing Peach Sites is because we want we're sort of we believe that's how the AI is going to work. So the AI is you're going to have access to a library. You can
Hmm.
prompt like, okay, I want this particle effect, and I
Mm.
want it to be purple or green. I want it to animate like that, and then you can basically select the layouts. Then you can prompt, I want to add a couple more sections, which you can already do on a website, and then you can basically launch the website in
That's so
minutes and
that's so
hours.
that's so cool.
So we're kind of building everything that we're doing is towards that now. So that's why we kind of have this value proposition at the moment, because we're kind of looking ahead.
What do you think in terms of with your background and your sort of your history thinking about 3D and where we're going? What type of sites or what type of businesses would do well or would do better with this PeachWeb build than a traditional static website?
Look, I always say that, your local bakery doesn't need a 3D website.
Just
But then
needs
I
good
actually met,
sourdough,
then I
yeah.
met a bakery. I met a bakery guy, and he wanted a 3D website. So
Okay.
that was a really funny moment for me. But just to go back to your question, so
Yeah.
anything, these are next generation websites, so that anyone in like tech, AI that want to feel like they have the next big project, that they kind of want to do a big launch or impress investors or impress their audience. It's very popular with that. It's obviously e-commerce.
Mm, mm,
Then there's any form of then there's creative websites. So think of like portfolio agencies, and then storytelling. So let's say like gaming or any sort of campaign that you're doing, or let's say an energy company has this new initiative to extract oil from, X, Y, and Z, and you kind
yeah.
of it's kind of telling, visualizing that story
Yeah.
around it. So those are, four really, really big umbrellas. And yeah, I think that's on the top of
No,
my head.
because I'm thinking about it, and it makes sense because you're effectively it's storytelling. It's anything to
Yeah,
do with storytelling where you're not using a traditional like a clip or clip art or some of a GIF or something like that. You're physically using elements to explain to people sort of your story. That's it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
engaging and it's colorful and it pops out the screen. I remember, well, when I went to the homepage as well, when I pull the mouse to the corners, the screen shifts, and
Yeah, the
that's
camera.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, the camera goes.
the
It's
camera
almost
goes.
like
Yeah.
it's like being in a game. You're sort of the main character, so you kind of dictate the journey a little bit. So you can do things, and
Yeah.
then site will respond. So for me, it's like, there's an attention crisis, and people, will look at a flat website for 8 seconds, and they're like, "Can I be bothered to read this?" You know,
I'm not
and
gonna. Yeah, it's literally that. I'm not reading all of this.
yeah, it's like I know what I'm getting into. Like I know this is going to be homework for a minute. So, and whereas where what we do is, through interaction, through visualization, and kind of you being sort of not passively scrolling, but you're actively scrolling because you're exploring facets of the website. It has to be in a familiar way. There's definitely a balance and an art to it. You can't just throw people in a metaverse and like good luck with the user journey. Like it has to be within the web
Feel
design
familiar.
principles, the
Yeah.
web design journey, but then you can add moments and interactions which, every scroll unfolds a bit of the journey, or you can go this way and something happens. You're like, oh, that was nice. And then you just go back to reading. It's like a children's book. You read a little bit and then you enjoy the colors, then you read a little bit, then you enjoy the colors. Like
The more
that's
I
kind of the
think, the more
strategy.
we are designing for 3 and 4 year olds, the better. Because
Yeah.
let me tell you one thing: since I've landed on that page, that fish has stuck with me.
Yeah.
So essentially, what you're doing is creating keystone moments and touch points for brands and consumers. And if a brand gets that right and you can live rent free, like you say, because most people are too bored, they don't want to spend a lot of time, but if your brand can live rent free like it did in the old web 2 before it became like just everything
What,
mumble
Flash?
mumble jumble, then you're on to a winner. Lucas, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to go and connect with you and PeachWeb and find out where they can sort of get involved or start their journey into Web3, Web3 3D websites, where can they do that?
Just go on PeachWeb.io and you can book a call with me. You can get
Speak to a
access
real
the builder.
person, not speak to AI, actually speak to a real person.
Yeah, old school.
Old school.
And you can start building for free. There's hosting plans, or you can get an expert to help. But just go on the website, check out the fish, and enjoy your day.
Awesome. Love it. We'll put all the links in the comments here somewhere where my hand is. Lucas, thank you so much for joining me today. And to our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. And we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.
Many nights, sleeping with the lights on, chasing someone built from silence and glow. And then she showed up, like she'd always lived here, wearing your favorite band, she saying nothing but knowing everything. Made me swear you didn't. There's fingerprints on the inside of the screen, and now your mirror talks back when you scream. She stepped through the glass like you never mattered, walked right into your mess like she already knew. Now you're stuck in this dream, you don't remember dreaming, and she's humming a song you never taught her to sing. She drinks your coffee black like her stare, flips through your notebooks of prayers with pages torn. You never asked her to stay, but she never leaves. She keeps rearranging your pictures like she's fixing the past. Did you mean for me to find that you didn't even know what that was? She knows all your tells before you twitch. She's not a ghost, but she haunts like one. She stepped through the glass and cracked all your patterns, wrote herself in the margins where no one was meant to read. And now you're living with someone you made by mistake, but somehow she's the only one who sees you when you break. There's no unplugging this, no good night, no fade to black. She's not some dream girl, she's the parts you forgot you buried, wearing your heartbeat like a second skin. She stepped through the glass, now she sleeps in your shadow.